Have you ever really stopped to think about what separates the heroes we love from the villains we, well, love to hate? Is it just what they do, what they want, or maybe is it just about who's telling the story? Today, we're going to dive deep into the anatomy of a character, from the absolute good guys to the purely evil ones, and we're going to find out that the line between them, it's a lot thinner than you might think.
All right, let's start with the absolute basics. This is the stuff we all learned as kids, right? The foundation of pretty much every fairy tale and blockbuster movie. It's a world painted in black and white. Good versus evil.
And this is a blueprint we know like the back of our hand. The hero is selfless, brave, fighting for justice and inspiring hope. And the villain? They're the complete opposite. Selfish, cruel, obsessed with power, and all about spreading fear. It's simple, it's clean, and for a lot of stories, it works perfectly.
But the stories that really stick with us, they're the ones that take that simple blueprint and just rip it to shreds. A perfect example is Commander Sam Vimes from Terry Pratchett's Discworld. Now, he is a good man through and through, a cop who protects the innocent. But inside, he's this pressure cooker of rage, always fighting a part of himself that wants to deliver its own much darker kind of justice. He's a hero who is terrifyingly aware of just how easy it would be to become the very monster he's hunting.
Okay, now this is where storytelling gets fun. This is where we step into the shades of gray. The moment we move past that simple good versus evil, we start to find these amazing characters who totally challenge our assumptions and make us ask, wait, who am I actually supposed to be rooting for here?
To really get how storytellers mess with our heads, we need to talk about something called a trope. You can think of tropes as the building blocks of a story, kind of like Lego bricks. They're the familiar ideas and character types that help us understand what's going on. But the best storytellers, they don't just use these tropes, they twist them in fascinating ways.
And this is where they have their fun, by subverting that clear binary. You know, they give us a character who fits the dark is not evil trope. They look scary, but they're actually a hero. Or you get a noble demon, or my personal favorite, a hero who is good is not nice. You know the type, someone who always does the right thing but is just a pain to be around. It's these kinds of twists that make characters feel so much more real, because, let's face it, none of us are perfect.
And then, of course, there's this absolute classic line. You've heard it a million times, right? It's a trope all by itself. The hero has the villain cornered, and the villain drops this bombshell. It's a brilliant move because it's designed to make the hero, and us, watching at home, just stop and think. It forces you to see these uncomfortable little similarities and wonder, could I be capable of that too?
Again, Terry Pratchett's Discworld is an absolute masterclass in this. You've got Granny Weatherwax. She is, without a doubt, a force for good, but she is also completely terrifying. Then, on the other side, you have Lord Vetinari. The guy is a tyrant. He uses spies and assassins to keep the peace. But you know what? Under his rule, the city actually works. It prospers. He is, for all intents and purposes, an evil man fighting on the side of the angels. It shows that sometimes the lines aren't just blurry, they're all over the place.
But hold on. What if this whole idea of a gray area is just an illusion? What if there's a completely different worldview out there? One where the lines between right and wrong aren't just clear, they're absolute, unforgiving, set in stone.
To get our heads around this, we're going to look at some material from a religious publication from the 1970s called Truth Magazine. And its entire reason for being was the search for a single, divine truth. As you can probably guess, this creates a very, very different way of looking at character.
This one quote really gets to the heart of the whole mindset. From this point of view, moral ambiguity isn't a sign of a complex story, it's a sign of danger. The idea of compromising or finding common ground with someone who's wrong is seen as a betrayal of the truth itself. It's basically saying that it's far, far better to be divided over the truth than to be united in a mistake.
So, in a framework like this, a character isn't judged by how complex they are or their internal struggles. Nope, they're judged against an external, unchanging blueprint. The question isn't, is this person wrestling with their inner demons? The question is, do their actions line up perfectly with what the scripture says? There's no room for gray. It's pass or fail.
Now, this is not just some theoretical exercise. How we choose to interpret a character, whether we see them as complex and gray or as black and white, can have massive, and I mean massive, real-world consequences. And for that, we need to look at the ultimate case study in character reinvention, Judas Iscariot.
The way Judas has been shown in movies isn't some fixed thing. It's like a mirror that reflects the culture of the time. In the very beginning, he was just the classic bad guy, a simple symbol of betrayal. Fast forward to the 1970s, and he gets swept up in this much more vague, feel-good retelling of the story. But then, after the absolute horrors of the Holocaust, people started to take a much harder look and ask some very tough questions about how this character's story had been told and why.
And here's the really mind-blowing part. If you go back to the original text, Judas is a pretty minor character. He's only mentioned 22 times. But over hundreds of years of retelling the story, his role was inflated, expanded, until he was transformed from one disciple who made a catastrophic choice into the absolute arch-villain of the entire saga. To understand why that happened, you have to know about this theological concept called Christian supersessionism. The core idea was that the character of Judas could be used as a symbol for all Jewish people. So, his betrayal wasn't just his own action anymore. It was reframed as the symbolic rejection of Jesus by an entire people. The story of one man was transformed into the story of a whole community.
And this is where the stakes become terrifyingly real. The interpretation of a single character became a theological weapon, a justification for centuries of anti-Semitism. A narrative choice had devastating, real-world historical consequences. This is why understanding how characters are built and how they're used matters so much.
So this all leads us to a much bigger idea. The way a character is written and then reinterpreted over and over proves that their story is never really, truly finished.
I mean, character isn't just about what someone does in the plot, it's baked into the very words on the page. Take a look at this. On the left, a line from James Joyce. The cat walks stiffly, with tail on high. You can picture that cat, right? You can feel its personality. On the right, a normalized version. The basic facts are the same, but the character, that stiff, proud little creature, it's gone. The author's style was the character.
And you can almost think of characters themselves as powerful cultural memes. Not the funny internet kind, but as powerful, replicable ideas. A character like Judas becomes a kind of hyperlink. Just mentioning his name brings with it centuries of history, theology, and prejudice. And that meme can be copied, remixed, and redeployed over and over again to create new meanings in new times. So, at the end of the day, what's the big takeaway? It's this. Characters aren't static statues in a museum. They are living, breathing ideas, and we, the audience, are actively participating in their creation. Every time you read a book or watch a movie, you are helping to write and rewrite exactly who these characters are. Which leaves us with one final thought. That clear, shining line that separates the hero from the villain, it might just be a trick of the light. It might just be a matter of perspective. All it takes is one different choice, one secret coming to light, or one new storyteller with a different agenda, and the hero you cheer for today could easily become the villain you fear tomorrow. The story you see is never really over.